Welcome back to the Afterwork Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about new details on the Kirk assassin's roommate, possible additional people who knew about what was going on according to the FBI, the Senate passing National Remembrance Day for Charlie Kirk, and the crackdown on all of the people who are celebrating the shooting and getting fired because of it. All that and more on today's Afterwork Podcast. So, first things first, we are going to go into the FBI investigating leftist groups for possible ties to Charlie Kirk's assassination. So it seems to be that multiple people have said things prior to the shooting that have come out. We had that one person, Omar, who seemed to know that something was going to happen. We had a couple other people who had been mentioned that also seemed to know what happened. Then it was also confirmed that the older man, who was initially thought to be the suspect, that said, "Hey, shoot me, I did it." It has been confirmed that he did that on purpose in order to allow the shooter to escape. So, it seems to be that there is a conspiracy where multiple people knew about what was going, that multiple people knew what was going to happen. A source familiar with the investigation into the Turning Point USA founder assassination told Fox News that the FBI is investigating leftist groups in Utah to see if they had any connection to the alleged shooter. The source told Fox that the FBI is investigating the leftist groups to see if they knew about the alleged shooter's plans beforehand or provided any assistance to him. The source did not elaborate on which groups are being investigated. Now, I don't know about you, but the Discord messages that came out seem very sterile. And a lot of people are saying, oh, well, the FBI is just making this up. But I actually think it's the opposite. I think the shooter and his roommate and multiple other people knew what was going to happen because he had discussed it in person with them. Now, there's no transcript of something you say in person. Therefore, I believe that him sending these very, very specific, like hyper-specific, oh, they didn't know, you didn't know what was happening, I did this, basically putting all of the evidence on a silver platter, I believe that was done intentionally in order to obfuscate their involvement with the plan. Basically to give them an alibi of, well, the shooter said that they weren't involved, but I find that hard to believe, especially when it seems like a bunch of people were saying, hey, something tomorrow is going to happen. I hope somebody does something to this person tomorrow. Oh, well, just watch. Something's going to happen. Like, there's no way that they didn't know. Even if it wasn't necessarily that they were directly told, maybe they heard something from somebody else who did know. I don't know. The FBI very much needs to investigate this and see what exactly is going on, okay? Now, moving on to the next topic is Charlie Kirk alleged assassin's roommate was problematic before family kicked him out. Relative says this. This is somebody who is related to him that says. Now, it says here, the transgender roommate of conservative activist Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin was previously kicked out of his parents' house over issues surrounding substance abuse, gender identity, and a persistent video game addiction. Lance Twiggs, who has not been charged with a crime yet, moved into a townhome in Utah after living with his grandparents when his father kicked him out. The relative said the 22-year-old is also in the process of transitioning from male to female, the relative confirmed. He was kicked out of his parents' home at the age of 18. He shared an apartment in southwest Utah with 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, who's accused of assassinating Kirk. And then they go on to just talk about blah, 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 yeah. His father thought he wasn't being respectful and problematic, so they kicked him out. He then lived with his grandparents until he was 18 and graduated from high school. The woman who asked to remain anonymous added that the roommate was struggling with substance abuse issues, addicted to video games, and grappling with his gender identity. But the real reason he was acting out was because he was using drugs and alcohol and was addicted to gaming. That's... What? The relative also revealed her family member had always tried to put on the act that he had changed. He moved into a townhome and paid full rent, and there were other college roommates at the time. According to the roommate's relative, he initially moved into the townhome before Robinson, who moved into the house later last year. The two were in a romantic relationship, the relative said. He was maintaining a job, able to pay rent, and technically an adult. The other college roommates eventually all moved out, and he stayed, and Tyler became his roommate. So, seems to me like this roommate, who supposedly wasn't involved, is not the best influence, if you know what I mean. So, not only are they addicted to gaming, drugs, and alcohol, but they are having problems with their mental health. And in addition to all of those things, then you get somebody else who is clearly mentally deranged moving in with them, because in order to assassinate someone, you kind of have to be mentally deranged. And you have two people together like that. I'm not surprised that one of them ended up radical. I mean, they're basically living in their own little echo chamber, are they not? Regardless of whether or not they were left or right, they both believed in the same things and are kind of sitting there living together, so obviously they're going to be talking with each other, and if they both agree on things, it's kind of an echo chamber, especially because all of the other roommates moved out. So, not surprising. But this relative has confirmed that they were in a relationship, that the roommate was trans, and so people saying that the shooter is Republican, that is patently false. It's been confirmed. So it's been reported so many times now with confirmed evidence that they were in fact not Republican. Just because your parents are Republican does not mean you are Republican. That's dumb. That takes all agency away from that individual's choices. That takes all agency away from that person's belief system. So to say that just because his family was Republican, that he has to be Republican, is asinine and stupid. So it's looking like the motive behind this was, in fact, transgender ideology. And, well, that doesn't reflect well on that community, does it? But more so, the thing that I'm bugged about is not the why he did it particularly. It's the response that everybody's having to this in lying repeatedly over and over again, despite clear evidence to the contrary. If you can't just take a moment to Google and read a couple articles, I don't know what to tell you. You have no critical thinking skills whatsoever. Mind you, right now I have multiple tabs open from CBS, ABC, Fox News, and Yahoo. Okay? I don't get my news from all one source, but there are people that do. So, anyway, what do you guys think about this in the comments down below? Go ahead and drop a comment. Now, we are going to move on to a little bit of good news. Senate passes National Day of Remembrance for Charlie Kirk ahead of memorial service. Funnily enough, actually, I saw somebody post that, oh my God, they're making it, they're making Charlie Kirk's Remembrance Day on the birthday of George Floyd. Oh, egassed. It's like, but you know it's Charlie Kirk's birthday too, right? Like his birthday is October 14th. So that's why they did it. They did not do it to cover up George Floyd's birthday. Okay. the leaps and bounds of reaching that has to happen to be like, oh, they're disrespecting George Floyd because two people happen to share the same birthday. Asinine. But I really don't care, because one was an innocent man simply debating people. The other was a career criminal who had the equivalent of 3 lethal doses of fentanyl in his system at the time that he died, and yet they blamed the cop for his death. No. I don't care that much about George Floyd versus Charlie Kirk, okay? Now, if it had been like Martin Luther King and Charlie Kirk, I could understand. Because, yeah, like, you don't cover up Martin Luther King's day with Charlie Kirk Day. Like, that's just, don't do that. But for a career criminal, I just, no one cares, man. So, days before memorial service for Charlie Kirk, the U.S. Senate has unanimously passed a day of remembrance for the conservative influencer. Unanimously. Okay? Do you know what unanimous means? Do you know what it means for the United States government to be unanimous on anything? Literally never happens. So the fact that the U.S. Senate, both Republican and Democrats, unanimously said, yeah, we're passing this, that tells you all you need to know about what happened, who's right, and who's wrong. Everybody who is cheering for this man's death are wrong. Even your representatives understand that this man deserves this. So I don't want to hear anybody saying anything to the contrary, because this was unanimous, okay? While on the Senate floor, Rick Scott, who is leading the passage of the resolution, said he is proud to have the support of more than 20 of my colleagues to honor Charlie Kirk by dedicating his birthday as this day of remembrance. Yes, thank you. This is fantastic. Anybody who is in a position like Charlie Kirk, like Martin Luther King, like Malcolm X, these very important public figures who championed debate, civil debate, even if you didn't like their ideas, it is extremely important to remember them for the way that they went about trying to effect change. Not through violence, but through peaceable discourse. This is a good thing. Now moving on to, well, let's just say, I guess if you're on the left, you would call it a bad thing. And if you're on the right, you just don't care. The crackdown on Charlie Kirk critics has ignited a free speech debate. Legal experts say it sets a dangerous precedent. Oh, you mean that thing that all of us on the right told you? Like 4 years ago when you guys started cancel culture and started being like, well, you should get fired for this, you should get fired for that. Oh, well, what? You can't have championed the firing of conservatives for 4 years, and then when it happens to you, be like, oh, but this is bad thing. No. That's hypocritical, and we, on the right, do not care that people are getting fired at this point. It's like, obviously, in certain circumstances, it's bad. You know what I mean? Like, if all you said was, hey, I don't care that he died, that's fine. You don't have to like the guy, but what you can't do is advocate for violence, call for violence, or put out a call to action. Those things are actually illegal and reflect bad on a business. So, of course, a business isn't going to want you around. So, in the week since conservative activist Charlie Kirk was assassinated at Utah University, comments from some of his critics have ignited a battle over free speech in an increasing polarized nation. Kirk, who routinely debated progressive students at his Turning Point USA events, espoused controversial opinions on his podcast, was a stalwart proponent of the First Amendment. Hate speech does not exist legally in America, he wrote on X last year. There's ugly speech, there's gross speech, there's evil speech, and all of it is protected by the First Amendment. Yes, calls to action or not. But over the last several days, the administration he supported and the president he helped re-elect have vowed to crack down on some speech about his death. Pentagon officials promised to address federal employees who mock or celebrate Kirk's death. On Monday, the State Department said it will revoke visas over social posts that celebrate Kirk's death. Yes, because that is terrible. There's a difference. Again, there is a difference between calls to action, celebrating death, and just saying, hey, I don't care, I didn't like the guy. Two very different things. And if you're here on a visa, you don't have free speech. You're not a citizen. You have allowed speech. Okay, and that is it. We have the right to kick you out if you say bad things. You agreed to it in the documents you signed when you signed your visa. So that's like saying, oh, my apartment fined me for not picking up my dog crap, even though it was in my lease. Like, yeah, you agreed to it, okay? So I don't want to hear any BS about that. That same day, Vice President Vance hosted Kirk's podcast to call the employers of anyone celebrating, encouraging listeners to call the employers of anyone celebrating Charlie's murder. Attorney Pam Bondi on Monday said people who post hate speech should be shut down. No, I disagree with that. Just because you don't like speech doesn't mean that it should be illegal. Doesn't mean that you should get fired for it. It is very specific what the things you should be fired for. And I find it funny that the left who sat there and said, hey, well, freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom of consequences, are now feeling the consequences of their speech, and now it's an issue. Okay, I'm a proponent of free speech. 100%. But I'm not going to come to the defense of people who did not believe in free speech. Okay, if you didn't believe in free speech and now you're crying free speech, I'm not going to defend you. I'm going to defend the people who were always in favor of free speech. If that person who was always in favor of free speech got fired, I'd be like, no, that's wrong. If you're on the left and you said, hey, free speech, not freedom of consequences, and championed firings, and then you get fired, I'm going to look at you and go, that sucks. Anyway, Democrat critics are lying about the administration's actions. This effort will target those committing criminal acts and hold them accountable. Yes, that is the point. It's about criminal actions. What things are you doing that are calls to action? Are you a conspiracy in a murder? Are you calling for the murder of somebody? Are you doing or saying something that seems to be in line with plans to do that to somebody? Okay? Kimmel was indefinitely taken off the air because of things he said. Jimmy Kimmel, was late Wednesday, ABC announced it would indefinitely preempt Jimmy Kimmel Live after FCC Chair Brendan Carr said the network should take action for the comedian's suggestion that Kirk's alleged killer is a Trump supporter. Well, yeah, you can't outright lie on TV. It's been proven false, and yet you lied. And then when you were asked to say sorry, you didn't. You refused. So yeah, the network's going to pull you off because you're spreading a lie that could heighten tension, heighten the temperature in the United States. Of course they're going to do that. It's not a good look on their business for you to blatantly lie on TV. What? Is the common sense in the room with us now? Because clearly these people have none. So, it's just... this whole thing is just crazy. I'm sorry, but again, I think it's not a good thing for people to be fired for their viewpoints. However, if you advocate violence, that's a call to action. If you directly say, go beat this person up, go beat up this type of people, go shoot this person, that is a call to violence. Okay? Period. End scene. That's it. You're done. Right to jail. Okay? And if not right to jail, fired. Done. Comprende. No more HR for you. Okay? That's it. Because I'm sorry. We have put up with this for too long. We have put up with the violence. We have put up with the killings. We are done with it. The left needs to have the government come in and arrest them for the things that they do and say when it comes to illegal actions. Notice how I said illegal actions, not arrest them for their speech, for their illegal actions and speech. Because yes, some speech is illegal. If I threaten you, that's illegal. If I say, I wish that you were dead, not illegal. See the difference? Anyway, guys, that is just some of the things that have happened in the news as of recently. Please drop a comment and tell me what you think in the comments down below about these stories. And let me know what you think about the entire political situation going on. Anyway, guys, I will keep you up to date as much as possible because, once again, I can only do this sometimes during the week because, I have a regular job. Anyway, I appreciate each and every one of you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.